the citizens of Haiti.
Oral questions, question orale, the Honourable Opposition House Leader.
Today's headline says it all, and I quote, "Massive majority of Liberal caucus wants the Prime Minister to drop federal COVID mandates." The report says that the Liberal member from the Yukon, a doctor and former medical officer of health, has given multiple presentations at Liberal caucus meetings on why the mandates need to be dropped. The member is a real doctor, not a spin doctor, but has the Prime Minister listened to him? Nope. Finally, the incoherence of a policy that is punishing and limiting the rights of Canadians is being realized by Liberal MPs. The Prime Minister won't listen to Canadians, but will he listen to his caucus?
The Honourable Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. When are the Conservatives going to realize that COVID-19 is not over? The Conservatives are just in denial about the reality of this pandemic. We've seen numerous times the Conservatives trying to immediately remove all federal COVID-19 restrictions. While we're in a much better place today than we were previously, this pandemic's not over, and we must be prepared for any potential future scenarios. Our government will continue to assess the evolving situation at home and globally, monitor data, and adjust border measures as required. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable House Leader for the Official Opposition.
Well, it's becoming clear by the day that these mandates and restrictions have nothing to do with science or evidence-based decision-making. It's all about control. It's about the Prime Minister controlling Canadians from travelling to see their families, controlling businesses recovering from COVID, and controlling Liberal MPs by forcing them to be bit actors in his COVID theatre. Watch them when the cameras come on them, how quickly they put on their masks. There's no coherent reason for these mandates to continue other than control. Will the Prime Minister admit that he's lost the plot and that this is all about controlling Canadians?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Vaccines remain an important tool in stopping the spread of COVID-19 and variants, but the Conservatives just can't seem to make up their mind about vaccinations. For example, the member from Yorkton Melville claims that the government has a secret agenda after refusing to get vaccinated, that there's some sort of conspiracy theory. Another Conservative, the member from Niagara West, wants to ban all mRNA vaccines. Those are the same ones that have saved millions of lives worldwide. This type of rhetoric is divisive, it's harmful, and all members of this House should stop trying to spread disinformation, Mr. Speaker. We all have an obligation to share good information and ensure that our constituents have what they need in order to go and get vaccinated.
The Honourable Whip for the Official Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, the NDP Liberal government continues to ram through legislation that has criminals jumping for joy. Criminals who steal people's wallets at gunpoint, shoot up the neighbourhood, traffic in weapons, or use a gun in their other criminal activities are one step closer to reduced sentences. Now, they claim it's to address overrepresentation of Black and Indigenous peoples in the correction system, but they ignore that these same communities are the ones most often victimized by gun crime. How is it that this government lacks so much compassion for victims and people at risk of violent crime?
The Honourable Minister of Justice.
Mr. Speaker, our government is moving forward to make the criminal justice system safer for communities, make it better for victims, make it much more fair and just. What we're doing with Bill C-5, Mr. Speaker, is attacking overrepresentation in the criminal justice system of Black and Indigenous peoples by taking those offenders, Mr. Speaker, who do not pose a risk for public security and making conditional sentence orders available to more crimes, and by reducing around 20 minimum mandatory penalties. Mr. Speaker, we're also raising the sentences for serious crimes.
The Honourable Whip for the Official Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, I hear from my constituents that their faith in the justice system is absolutely shaken. Rural communities repeatedly targeted by repeat offenders want serious action. Instead, the government is going to let the people that are beating, robbing, and shooting at them stay out of jail for these and even more serious offences. This will make things worse. This government's justice reforms fail to address overrepresentation of minority groups in the prison system, and it also fails to enhance public safety. So why doesn't the government do something useful instead of just virtue signaling all the time?
The Honourable Minister of Justice.
Mr. Speaker, nothing could be further from the truth than what the honourable member is saying. Bill C-21, Mr. Speaker, attacks violent crime, attacks gang crime, attacks trafficking in arms, and raises the maximum penalties available for certain sentences. Mr. Speaker, If he's talking about repeat offenders, those offenders do not have access to minimum mandatory penalties. In fact, they go the other way, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, public safety is not going to be negatively affected. In fact, it's going to be enhanced by allowing for by allowing for serious offenses to be treated seriously and for more flexibility at the other.
The Honourable the Honourable Opposition House, Lewitt.
Well, since the Liberals like importing American policies so much, in the 1990s, the United States experimented with a tax on boats very similar to the one in this year's Liberal budget, but Congress ended up removing it just 2 years later because it was killing jobs and destroying the industry. It was so bad that the government ended up losing more money from the industry collapse than it generated from revenue. It was a net loss for the Treasury. Will the Liberals admit that there's absolutely no point in having this tax that will cost jobs and kill a sector of our economy that Canadian families enjoy? Or is that their plan? Is that their plan?
Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Tourism and Associate Minister of Finance.
Mr. Speaker, it comes as no surprise that this question is coming from the Conservative Party. They voted against increasing taxes for the 1% and decreasing taxes for the middle class. With respect to jobs, Mr. Speaker, that the member raises, Statistics Canada released a report today indicating that May saw 400,000 new jobs created in this country. These are full-time jobs that are well-paying, Mr. Speaker. Since last year, we see an increase in wages of nearly 4%. Canadians are taking home bigger paychecks thanks to the policies that our Liberal government put in place.
The député de Saint-Jean.
We were skeptical when the government announced that they would give Aeroplan points to help Ukrainians travel to Canada, and unfortunately, we were right to be skeptical. They promised to help 10,000 people almost 2 months ago, but 2 months later, the government has helped about 500 people out of 10,000 promised. Why has the government broken its commitment to people displaced by war in Ukraine? The Honourable Minister of Immigration.
With great respect to my honourable colleague, nothing could be further from the truth. As of today, there are more than 30,000 Ukrainians who are being provided with safe haven here in Canada. Yes, the federal government has offered charter to nearly 1,000 Ukrainians, and I actually want to thank both Air Canada and the Shapiro Foundation for their extraordinarily generous donation, which is going to start bringing Ukrainians from Europe to Canada as soon as this week. They're going to be starting with 500, but they have secured enough in donations to provide for cost-free transportation for at least 10,000 Ukrainians who are in need of safe refuge. This is something we should be very proud of.
The député de Saint-Jean.
Mr. Speaker, Ukrainians who are fleeing war heard the government tell them that they're going to be welcomed with open arms. 127,000 applied for emergency travel. And what did Canada do for those people on day 107 of the war? They chartered 3 flights, offered 500 plane tickets, and declared itself satisfied. They're not taking this seriously. Is the government going to set up a real air bridge? Or is it confirming that Canada is only opening its arms to people displaced by war who have money? The Honourable Minister of Immigration.
Mr. Speaker, again, with respect to my colleague, I would point out that there are more than 30,000 Ukrainians who've already arrived in Canada. We have not seen this pace of arrivals with people who are fleeing war or persecution in any other initiative that could be comparable in the history of Canada. This is extraordinary to see so many people who have been provided with safe haven so quickly. But it's not enough that we work to get people here. We have to support them when they land. We've arranged to have airport reception services through the Red Cross. We've arranged to give access to settlement services with 550 organizations across Canada. We've established income supports. We've established temporary accommodation supports. We're continuing to do what we can to make sure people get here and succeed after they arrive as well.
The Honourable Member for Windsor West.
Mr. Speaker, affordability issues are at the top of the mind for all Canadians. Liberals like to compare their track record with other countries, but when it comes to Telcom, it's an interesting story. Canadians are paying amongst the highest prices for services in all the world, and it could actually get worse with the Rogers-Shaw takeover. Canadians will pay the prices, while Edward Rogers and family will benefit from the takeover, and another billionaire's family will also benefit. It is past time to act. Will the government side with families or with billionaires who want to consolidate power, reduce competition, increase prices for Canadians during the summer, and spend their time on the yachts while Canadians are actually picking money out of their pocketbooks just for an essential service?
The Honourable Minister.
I'd like to thank my colleague for his question. Affordability, affordability, affordability. That is what is driving our government policy, Mr. Speaker. And I would say my colleague, the honorable member, knows that very well. Mr. Speaker, my position has been made very, very clear. I would say I would not allow the wholesale transfer of licenses from Shaw to Rogers. The matter is now under review by the Competition Bureau. It's going to be looked at by the CRTC. And I can assure the member that every step of the way we'll make sure that Canadians continue to enjoy the affordability that they deserve, but at the same time that we foster competition across the nation.
The honourable member for London Fanshawe.
Mr. Speaker, a year ago, this government held the National Action Summit on Islamophobia, and stakeholders provided clear recommendations. I want to thank the local and national Muslim organizations, including the Youth Coalition Combating Islamophobia from London, who have been fighting in memory of lost loved ones. But they are still waiting for the government to do their job and actually address the root causes of Islamophobia, like bringing legislation to address online hate, radicalization, and violence. Devastated communities like mine are doing the hard work while the government provides only words and no action. Why?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Mr. Speaker, I thank the member for her question. Canada has seen an alarming increase in racism and hate crime targeting Muslim Canadians. Islamophobia in our country is a real and troubling fact. Our government has taken concrete steps to address Islamophobia. This includes marking January 29th as National Day of Remembrance and Action Against Islamophobia and holding a national summit on Islamophobia this past summer. We will continue to support community organization and work closely with the Muslim community to end Islamophobia once and for all. Thank you.
The honourable member for Kelowna Lake Country.
Speaker, my constituents have never seen grocery prices so high thanks to Made in Canada inflation. One response to my recent grocery survey read, quote, "I'm a 79-year-old widow on pension. My food and rent have gone sky high," unquote. As well, a recent online Castanet poll found almost 80% of respondents saying rising prices force them to cut back on what they buy. The Liberals can't keep blaming everyone else on food inflation. Is the government going to do anything to help cut the rising price of food? And if not, why?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Mr. Speaker, there are a number of measures that our government put in place that will help Canadians this year. Canadian families will be receiving up to $7,000 this year in the Canada Child Benefit, and checks are starting to come out in July. Over 3 million Canadian workers are going to benefit from the Canadian Workers Program. But, Mr. Speaker, what we hear from the other side, from the Conservatives, are two policy proposals this week. One is to give a tax break to big oil and gas, and the second is to give a break to Russia and drop the sanctions against Russia. Mr. Speaker, there is no solid, credible economic policy coming from the Conservative Party, and it's disappointing.
The honourable member for Elgin, Middlesex, London.
Just to correct the record, we are asking for assistance to consumers, so I just want to get that on the record. Statistics Canada reported that 75% of Canadians are being impacted negatively by ever-increasing cost of living. Food costs up, housing costs up, fuel is up. But when this government has the opportunity to provide relief from the pumps, they turn them down. Where is the help from this government for Canadians who are struggling with the dramatic increase in cost of living today?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Mr. Speaker, the Conservatives are proposing to give a tax break to oil and gas companies, not to Canadians. Mr. Speaker, we are providing direct payments to Canadians. Canadians who have trouble finding affordable housing will be getting a direct payment from our government. Canadians who are working at minimum wage will be getting a direct payment from our government. We are helping Canadians directly, Mr. Speaker, and we'll continue to do that.
The honourable member for North Okanagan, Shuswap.
Mr. Speaker, sky-high inflation, now at a 31-year high, is having a disproportionate impact on Canadians. The PM doesn't have to buy groceries or fill his own tank, but Canadians on lower incomes are spending a disproportionately higher percentage of their incomes on necessities like bread, milk, and sundries. Gas prices in the North Okanagan Shuswap are at $2.13 a litre. Some can't afford to drive to work. We know the Prime Minister does not think about monetary policy for Canadians, but do any of the other spend-EP Liberals think about it?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Tourism and Associate Minister of Finance.
Mr. Speaker, the member opposite cites the PBO report. The PBO report also confirms that inflation is a global phenomenon caused by the war in Ukraine and caused by bottlenecks in supply chains from the pandemic. Mr. Speaker, what we've done is put forward a number of measures in the budget that will help Canadians directly. What the Conservatives have done is to delay the implementation of the budget, delay funding going straight to Canadians in order to help them with the cost of living increase, Mr. Speaker, and it's shameful.
The honourable member for Charleswood, St. James, Assiniboia, Headingley.
The Prime Minister keeps saying that the government took on debt during the pandemic so that Canadians wouldn't have to. Well, it turns out it just didn't work. Now the Bank of Canada reports that Canadians' biggest vulnerability is higher household indebtedness. In fact, interest rates are on the rise and people are at risk of losing their homes. And so this is a very important question, Mr. Speaker. Will the minister finally admit that this government's irresponsible spending led to this cost of living crisis? Isn't that right, Mr. Speaker?
That's right. The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Mr. Speaker, a report just came out this week indicating that Canadians and investors have an extremely high confidence in the Bank of Canada and all of our financial institutions. That's certainly not thanks to the member of Carleton's comments or the Conservatives' comments impugning the independence of the Bank of Canada. We will do everything to ensure that our Canadian economy continues to grow. Experts are forecasting that the economy here in Canada will grow at a higher rate than the rest of G7 countries both this year and next year. Our Stats Canada numbers from this morning indicate that unemployment is at its lowest levels historically in this country, Mr. Speaker. We'll continue to be focused on our economy and on Canadians.
The honourable member for Langley Aldergrove.
At $2.36 a litre, the price of gasoline in BC's Lower Mainland is the highest in North America. Now, we hear the Minister of Finance say that the price of gasoline is beyond her control, yet we know that it is this government's policy to actually drive up the cost of gasoline. When will they come clean and acknowledge that their policies are hurting ordinary Canadians and fueling our cost of living crisis?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Mr. Speaker, once again, the only proposal from the Conservative Party is to cut taxes on the oil and gas companies themselves, with no guarantee that those tax cuts will be passed on to consumers, Mr. Speaker. What we are doing is providing direct support to Canadians in order so that they can meet the increased cost of living that they're seeing as a result of the war in Ukraine, Mr. Speaker. We'll continue to be focused on Canadians themselves and not big oil.
The honourable member for Desnethe, Mississippi, Churchill River.
Mr. Speaker, input costs for farmers have soared. Fertilizer costs have nearly tripled and fuel costs have doubled, all while we face a food security crisis. Yet Liberals intentionally hurt farmers' ability to increase production. A punitive fertilizer reduction policy not based on fact or science and a carbon tax increase, hindering investment in climate-resilient techniques farmers were making long before Liberal ministers were Greenpeace activists. That's right. Mr. Speaker, has the Minister of Agriculture misunderstood that she is supposed to fight for farmers instead of against?
The Honourable Minister of Agriculture. Mr. Speaker, once again, I want to reassure my colleague. This government has supported farmers the most.
Budget for the Agricultural Department last year of more than $4 billion. It did not happen with the previous government. I can assure you that, because they have cut budget of the business risk management programs and many other programs. While we have increased the budget for business risk management program, we have invested. We are at $1.5 billion investment in agri-environmental programming. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Mr. Speaker, in a rare move, the Government of Quebec submitted to all parties its proposed amendments to Bill C-13, the Bill on Official Languages. All it's asking these parties to do is to be realistic. Quebec is asking them to recognize the minority situation of the French language in Canada due to the predominant use of English, and consequently that Francophones and Anglophones have different needs. Seems obvious. Will the government amend C-13 so that it reflects reality? The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Official Languages. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. We're the first federal government to recognize the decline of French throughout the country, including in Quebec. We know that we have to do more to protect and promote the French language. This is a goal we share with the Government of Quebec. Our government will continue to accept its responsibilities to legislate in its jurisdiction to support the vitality of the French language and the communities that use it. Members at committee will consider these amendments, and they will look at the requests of stakeholders throughout the country, as well as the Government of Quebec. The Honourable Member for Longueuil-Saint-Hubert. Not the clearest of answers, Mr. Speaker. But in 2016, the Prime Minister had a flash of insight. He said that Quebec must be French first so that Canada can be bilingual. This is consistent with the amendments to C-13 called for by Quebec. Quebec is asking the federal government to commit to respecting the linguistic development of Quebec as set out in the Charter of the French language. Will the government include Quebec's demands in C-13 to affirm Quebec's uniqueness and ensure respect for the Charter of the French language? The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary. Mr. Speaker, Bill C-13 is under review at the Official Languages Committee, and we thank the Government of Quebec for the contribution it's made to the legislative process. Members will have to consider proposed amendments put forward by all stakeholders. I'm optimistic that we will find ways to move forward to get the best legislation possible. So I ask all parties to set aside political games playing and work to ensure that this bill gets adopted as quickly as possible. It's important to communities throughout the entire country. Thank you.
Northumberland, Peterborough South.
Mr. Speaker, Canadians are experiencing economic challenges that they haven't seen since Pierre Elliott Trudeau was Prime Minister. They are struggling through a cost of living crisis. Inflation is at 6.8%. Supply chain disruption have Canadians waiting for months for essential items. Gas prices over $2 a litre. A struggling stock market has Canadians' retirement savings disappear. Mr. Speaker, are we experiencing a return to Trudeaunomics, or is this just inflation?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Mr. Speaker, the member opposite cites a few statistics, and I'll do the same. This morning, Statistics Canada confirmed that wages increased for Canadian workers at the highest rate since 1981 by nearly 4%. Canadians are taking home more money in order to meet the cost of living crisis that they are facing, and our government is supporting vulnerable Canadians. In respect of seniors, for example, we increased our supports for seniors, and it's helped lift over 450,000 seniors out of poverty, Mr. Speaker. We are helping 900,000 seniors right now with our increased supports.
Come on. The Honourable Member for Calgary, Rocky Ridge.
Speaker, when questioned about inflation, the government just shrugs its shoulders and says it's part of a global phenomenon. And it's true that some other countries that are running huge deficits are experiencing inflation, but Canada is the only one deliberately making things worse by increasing taxes on consumers. Dropping the carbon tax and GST on fuel would immediately reduce consumer prices, just like prices dropped in Alberta when the provincial government cut its fuel tax. Why won't this government drop these taxes?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Mr. Speaker, it's the NDP proposing to increase taxes on oil and gas companies, and it's the Conservative Party that's proposing to cut taxes on oil and gas companies. We're focused on Canadians. We're focused on supporting vulnerable Canadians.
Well, let's take a... As much as I enjoy a go between the two parties, when we're calling somebody a specific liar or what have you is unparliamentary. So if we could just sort of retract that one and then we can move on with question period. Is that okay?
It's okay.
It's okay. Everybody's good? All right. The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Mr. Speaker, as I was saying, we are focused on supporting Canadians directly. That's why this year Canadian families will receive up to $7,000 in the Canada Child Benefit. That's why our new Canadian Workers Program will support over 3 million workers with an increased top-up. Mr. Speaker, we also have direct payments going to Canadians who have trouble finding affordable housing. We are there to support Canadians directly.
The Honourable Member for Yellowhead.
Mr. Speaker, Canadians need this government to listen. Mark works in rural areas in my riding and needs to get to work. Because of distance and terrain, he can't take a bike, there are no buses or trains, he needs to drive a pickup truck. Mark pays $139 for only half a tank of gas. Mr. Speaker, why is this NDP Liberal government not cancelling the carbon tax increase, suspending the GST on gas to give Mark and all other Canadians a break on fuel?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Mr. Speaker, this week the Conservatives proposed a number of economic policies. One of them was in order to cancel our price on pollution. A price on pollution, we know, is the most effective way to tackle climate change. The other was to give oil and gas companies a break by dropping the GST. The GST works in this country in the following way. The government taxes the oil and gas companies, and the oil and gas companies pass that tax on to consumers. If we drop the GST on oil and gas companies, there's absolutely no guarantee that Canadian consumers will see any benefit at the pumps. It is a tax reduction on oil and gas companies, pure and simple.
Rachel, have you ever bought anything in the store?
You ever paid GST?
It's Friday. The Honourable Member for Edmonton West.
Mr. Speaker, Edmonton's food bank is facing record demand. At the same time, they're facing a 30% increase in operating costs due to runaway Liberal gas inflation. Now, these are resources being taken directly away from the people they are trying to help. Now, Edmonton charities need help, and the Liberals can help immediately by reducing gas taxes and suspending the carbon tax. So will the Liberals commit to helping those in need, or do they think perhaps the food bank should feed the needy with dishonest Liberal talking points?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Mr. Speaker, we have been there for Canadians throughout the pandemic. We have increased regularly our supports to food banks, and we have helped lift over 400,000 children in poverty out of poverty, Mr. Speaker. Our programs are supporting vulnerable Canadians every day. This year alone, we have ensured that the Canada Child Benefit will increase up to $7,000 for a Canadian family. This is direct support to Canadians when Canadians need it.
Absolutely.
The Honourable Member for Edmonton Greensboro.
Mr. Speaker, Evangeline Kayakan is a well-known community leader and activist in Edmonton. She's also an undocumented worker. She has given so much of herself to better our community in Edmonton. Yet, she and her Canadian-born 6-year-old daughter are now facing imminent deportation. This is especially traumatizing for her daughter, who has health issues. This is a story of just one in a worrying trend of cruel deportations. Will the minister stop this deportation and help Vanjie and her daughter stay in Canada, her home?
The Honourable Minister of Immigration.
Mr. Speaker, our immigration system needs to have a compassionate approach. The Honourable Member knows that we're not at liberty to discuss the specific details of individual case files on the floor of the House of Commons. I'm happy to continue the conversation that we began together about this specific case file. We're aware of it. We're going to continue to look at the details and ensure that the rules are applied fairly, but also with a compassionate lens. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Courtenay Alberni.
Mr. Speaker, Canada is experiencing a mental health crisis. Every day it is costing lives. The Liberals have promised time and time again to address this crisis, but they've broken their promises. In their election platform, the Liberals promised $4.5 billion to expand mental health services, but there was no sign of this in the budget. They promised a fully funded 3-digit suicide prevention hotline and a suicide prevention strategy, initiatives that received unanimous support right here. Yet again, no funding was given to these commitments in the budget. When will the Liberals follow through on their promises to help people who are struggling?
The Honourable Minister of Mental Health and Addictions.
I thank the member for the question and his ongoing advocacy. Our government has made historic investments in mental health through $5 billion in bilateral agreements with the provinces and territories, which provides now $600 million on an annual basis until 2027. We're engaging with the provinces and territories to inform the development of the new mental health transfer, and we will need the help of all parties and a comprehensive evidence-based plan, including sharing data on indicators and outcomes. We remain fully committed to the additional $4.5 billion over 5 years to support the mental health of Canadians.
The Honourable Member for Kitchener-Conestoga.
Mr. Speaker, Northern and Indigenous communities see and experience the harsh consequences of climate change at nearly 3 times the rate of the rest of Canada. From housing to airports to community services, melting permafrost, coastal erosion, and thinning sea ice, these changes negatively impact traditional ways of living. Since 2015, our government's worked together with Northern and Indigenous partners to help fight climate change. Can the Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Natural Resources and the Minister of Northern Affairs please update this House on our government's work with Northern and Indigenous communities to fight climate change and improve quality of life?
Good question.
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I want to thank the member for a wonderful question and for all of his hard work on curbing climate change. Through Northern Affairs, our government has made historic investments of more than $167 million to fund renewable energy, monitor climate change on the land, address the impacts of sea ice change, permafrost melting, flooding, and wildfires. And recently, we announced $300 million to ensure rural, remote, and Indigenous communities can move off diesel and are powered by clean, reliable energy by 2030. We'll keep making those investments and partnering with territories and Indigenous governments to do.
The Honourable Member for Fort McMurray Cold Lake.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I would suggest that the vaccine requirements for being on planes and at workplaces at the moment, I don't think the benefits of these mandates warrant the cost. That statement was from the Liberal member from Thunder Bay, Rainy River, who's also a medical doctor and a member of our health committee. In fact, he's been reported that a massive majority of the Liberal caucus want to see an end to these mandates. So I know the Prime Minister won't listen to Conservatives, but will he take the advice of one of the doctors in his caucus and end these vindictive mandates?
Yep, great question. The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Health.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. On this side of the House, our government will continue to make sure that we're putting the health of Canadians first, because nobody wants another wave or more lockdowns due to COVID-19. Let's talk about what some of the Conservatives are saying about vaccination. The member from Yorkton Melville claims that the government has a secret agenda and some kind of conspiracy as she refuses to get vaccinated. Another Conservative, the member from Niagara West, wants to ban all mRNA vaccines, the same ones that have saved millions of lives worldwide. This type of rhetoric is divisive and misleading, and all members of this House should stop trying to spread misinformation. We all have an obligation to stand up for Canadians, ensure they continue to be safe.
The Honourable Member for Fort McMurray Cold Lake.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. What Canadians just witnessed right there, that was just spin doctoring and political science, not medical science. It's been reported that a massive majority of the Liberal caucus want to see an end to these mandates. This week, the member from Milton asked my colleague, a medical doctor who ran a COVID-19 ward in Nova Scotia, to stop asking and talking about mandates. On this side of the House, Conservatives will not be intimidated by members opposite. When will we see an end to these vindictive vaccine mandates?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Mr. Speaker, back in 2020, the Conservatives claimed that we wouldn't have enough vaccines for all Canadians. But let me be clear, Canada has sufficient supply and will ensure that all eligible Canadians are protected for primary series, for boosters, as well as for pediatrics and other therapeutics. In the face of Omicron and other unfortunate variants, Canada will be able to onboard more sufficient supply of both pediatrics and boosters for the provinces and territories to expedite simultaneous vaccine campaigns. Mr. Speaker, this isn't political science. This is the science of supporting our neighbours.
The Honourable Member for St. Albert Edmonton.
Mr. Speaker, Canadians have had enough of the Liberals' unscientific vaccine mandates. So too, reportedly, have the vast majority of backbench Liberal MPs, including medical doctors. One of these medical doctors, the Liberal member for Thunder Bay Atikokan, has even gone on the public record calling for their immediate end. So, when will the Liberals finally listen to experts within their own caucus, medical doctors, and end the mandates?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. In order to keep Canadians safe, our government has put in place emergency border measures, which have been very effective in reducing the risk of importation and transmission of COVID-19. While COVID-19 cases in Canada have peaked, other countries are having resurgences of cases, and we need to remain vigilant. That's why we've extended Canada's existing border measures until June 30th, 2022. But I would indicate to the member opposite that they have changed over the period of time since November of 2021 that they have been in place. As we said all along, Mr. Speaker, Canada's border measures will remain flexible and adaptable, guided by science and prudence.
Member for Souris Moose Mountain.
Mr. Speaker, my office continues to receive on a daily basis emails and letters from my constituents expressing their frustrations with the ongoing reduced hours at land border crossings. Back in April, I asked the Parliamentary Secretary for Public Safety when the hours would go back to normal. Not only did she not provide an answer to that question, she also fully admitted that she wasn't even listening when I asked it. When will the minister actually take this issue seriously and commit to returning border crossing hours back to normal? Or are they just waiting for the House to recess to avoid giving us credit and hearing, "We told you so"?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Public Safety.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. We're working closely with the CBSA to reopen land ports as quickly as possible. We know it impacts Canadians, especially those exporting commercial goods, which is why we've opened 39 land ports. We continue to open all ports that were temporarily closed from COVID. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Rimouski-Nejet-Témiscouata Basque. Mr. Speaker, after 2 years of not travelling, people are furious about the delays in obtaining their passports. And rightly so, the federal government has allowed delays to accumulate, and it is its duty to correct its mistake. On Tuesday, the Bloc Québécois demanded that passport offices open on weekends and that there be no additional fees for people who travel within 48 hours. Mr. Speaker, tomorrow is Saturday. Will people be able to go to all offices and leave with their passports in hand without any additional fees? And if not, what is the government waiting to do? The Honourable Minister.
Speaker, I want to thank the honourable member for his question and for his advocacy for his constituents. Mr. Speaker, we know that Canadians are travelling again. There's been a significant increase in demand for.
Okay, I'll tell you. There's a really bad sound there. I don't know what was happening. Let's go to the Government House Leader.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. We know there's unprecedented demand. In fact, over 2 years, Canadians were not renewing their passports, and we have all of those passports being renewed at the same time. Globally, we're seeing long periods of time for these to be processed. In Canada, obviously, we're adding additional resources to meet these demands as quickly as possible to make sure that people can get their passports in a timely way, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Rivière-des-Mille-Îles. Mr. Speaker, Ottawa continues to abandon Francophone veterans. The Auditor General confirmed this in her report last week. Francophones are waiting 2 to 3 months longer for their applications for services. That is 21% longer. I quote the Auditor General. I have come to the real conclusion that the government has not kept its promise to our veterans that it would take care of them. That it would take care of them if they were injured in service. Mr. Speaker, when will this government finally keep its word to Francophones? Thank you. The Honourable Minister for Veteran Affairs.
I appreciate my honourable colleague's question and his concern. We realise more that needs to be done for the Francophone veterans, and that's why we established a dedicated Francophone unit to improve this situation. And we invested $340 million to make sure that we're able to improve the wait times. And in fact, we have improved all wait times, including Francophone veterans. But I realize there is more to do, and I can assure this House and my honourable colleague that we're making sure that happens. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Beauce. Mr. Speaker, the neoliberal government's philosophy on crime will hurt Canadians more than it helps them. Legislation like Bill C-5 will do nothing to deter criminal activity. It will only promote it. The Prime Minister does not realise that victims of violent crime are overrepresented in Black and Indigenous populations. Over the past 7 years, crime has only increased under this government. When will the Minister realise that this type of legislation will do more harm and abolish C-5? The Honourable Minister for Justice. Mr. Speaker, C-5, Bill C-5, targets overrepresented populations in our criminal system, Black and Indigenous populations notably, by giving more flexibility to judges and justices to hand down a sentence, an adequate sentence. Mr. Speaker, we will support victims. We are currently supporting victims, and serious offences will always have serious consequences. We need to tackle the issue of overrepresentation, and that is exactly what we're doing. The Honourable Member for Beauce. Mr. Speaker, it is urgent that the government wake up. Canadians are being penalised with punitive fines and quarantines for not filling out their ArriveCAN application correctly. Most of them are vaccinated. It's ridiculous. The 14-day quarantine imposed on vaccinated Canadians who do not have the application is now longer than the quarantine imposed on those who actually get COVID-19. For a government that says it follows science, will the Minister finally abandon the Arrive Can app? The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Continues to be an essential and intuitive tool to protect Canadians as we reopen borders and fire up the economy. Through the app, we've streamlined the reopening process, and travel is up 707% from peak pandemic as a result. ArriveCan takes only a few minutes for vaccinated travelers to complete, and over 99% of air and marine travelers and 94% of land travelers have been compliant and allowed for increased efficiency. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Beauce. Well, that's ridiculous, Mr. Speaker. The passport saga continues. The government uses the same arguments, but the problems remain the same. Constituents in my riding cannot get Service Canada on the phone, and the lineups are going around the block. Emergency passport applications cannot even be dealt with anymore. Some constituents have even been told to drive 3.5 hours to another riding to try to renew their passport. Is the government's plan to sit on their hands until June 23rd and then magically disappear for their holidays?
House Leader.
Mr. Speaker, after 2 years, unfortunately, there were passports that were not being renewed. It means that 2 years' worth of passports have to be processed in mere months. And of course, we didn't know exactly when those volumes were going to be hitting. And that's why we've seen worldwide delays in passports, with jurisdictions in every part of the world struggling to keep up with demand. Obviously, we've increased resources and staff and hours, and we're cutting through that volume. We're pleased to say that we're making good progress, and we want to ensure that Canadians will get their passports as soon as possible.
The Honourable Member for Châteauguay-Lacolle. Mr. Speaker, the National Shipbuilding Strategy contributes billions of dollars annually to the Canadian economy and creates and sustains thousands of jobs from coast to coast to coast. Earlier this week, Quebec's shipyard, Chantier Davy, took another step towards becoming Canada's third official shipyard under the National Shipbuilding Strategy. Can the Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister for Public Services and Procurement tell us how Chantier Davy is contributing to shipbuilding, and what this contract means for Quebec workers and the Quebec economy? The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary. Thank you very much to my friend for Châteauguay-Lacolle. Our government will enter into negotiations with Chantier Davy to conclude a framework agreement to become the third strategic partner in the agreement under the National Shipbuilding Strategy. Once negotiations are complete, Davy Shipyards will build one of the 2 polar icebreakers and 6 icebreakers for the Canadian Coast Guard. This is an amazing job for Quebec and the national capital.
Honourable Member for Renfrew, Nipissing, Pembroke.
Mr. Speaker, the NDP Liberal defence budget is so nebulous they wouldn't even let the committee vote on it. A former official said there's a $15 billion difference between what's earmarked for defence and what is actually shown. Is the funding just being shown as defense spending so our NATO contributions don't look so bad? And have the funds, the missing billions, gone to the same place as lapsed defense spending into some green slush fund?
The Honourable Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. We are assuring Canadians security and contributing to global security. That's why our government has not only been increasing spending by 70% between 2017 and 2026, following a decade of conservative cuts.
We have a point of order. I believe that interpretation services have been interrupted.
And I'm hoping the translation pops up. So is it an issue of the headphones? So the boom, Parliamentary Secretary can maybe move the boom down a little bit or up. Maybe Pippi Prush a little closer.
How about now, Mr. Speaker?
It still sounds a little off. So I'm going to go to the Government House Leader.
Mr. Speaker, and we saw by the Conservatives cuts to critical support for defence year after year. And instead, what we've done is taken an approach of investing in our defence services, investing in our soldiers, making sure after we saw cuts from veterans and shutting veterans' offices that we made sure that that we were there for veterans as well. So we will continue to invest in defence and ensure that Canada is making its appropriate contributions in global security.
Honourable member for Regina, Wascana.
Mr. Speaker, Saskatchewan is the breadbasket of the world and leads the country in the production of wheat, canola, and many other crops. That takes fertilizer, lots of fertilizer. Recently, this government announced its plan to make Canadian farmers ration fertilizer by 30%, causing the price of groceries to skyrocket and leaving many Canadians going hungry. Mr. Speaker, why is this government punishing Canadians who simply want to eat?
The Honourable Minister of Agriculture.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. We are proud that Canada is a very important contributor to food security in the world. And the idea behind reducing the emissions caused by fertilizer does not mean reducing fertilizer. And actually, our producers are engaging significantly in the 4R practices. So best practices, they are applying the fertilizer the right way to reduce emission, to reduce their costs in the same time. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Lanark, Frontenac, Kingston.
Mr. Speaker, in April, in response to questions regarding a possible goat farm at Joyceville, the Parliamentary Secretary stated, "Correctional Service Canada does not intend to do any goat milk production," end quote. And in May, she told the House they are not moving forward with goats, end quote. But on June 2nd, CSC stated that while it currently had no plans for dairy goat operations, it would, quote, reassess at a later date. So why won't the government just admit that they're not going to take the goat farm option off the table?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. And I will reiterate that there are no goats planned for Correctional Services Canada at this time. There are no contracts for the goat farming. I would ask the honourable member why he is. I'm sorry, Mr. Speaker.
Order. Order. The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary, 10 seconds or so.
Okay, Mr. Speaker, I'm sorry. I've been asked about this so many times that I'm losing track of what I said. Currently, Correctional Services is not planning on goat farming, but I would reiterate, Mr. Speaker, I'm going to ask the honourable member, has he actually visited the prison farms? Has he thought about the fact that when he was in government, his government closed the prison farms. They removed fresh food and dairy from the prisons. Maybe we should start.
Your back was working. There you go. The Honourable Deputy.
The Honourable Member for Sudbury. Mr. Speaker, our two official languages are part of our country's history and central to our identity as Canadians. The Minister for Official Languages recently launched consultations for the next action plan on official languages. Could the Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister for Official Languages inform us on what our government is doing to ensure that minority Canadians across the country are being listened to, and to also ensure that we have the best game plan to protect our two official languages throughout Canada? The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister for Official Languages. Mr. Speaker, I would like to thank my colleague for her question and her devotion to her community. We have launched a cross-Canada consultation for our next action plan. We are going to consult communities across Canada to hear their priorities and visions with respect to official languages. Through our current action plan, we have invested unprecedented levels in official language minority communities from coast to coast to coast. And I look forward to our next action plan playing an equally important role in the lives of all Canadians. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Nanaimo Ladysmith.
Mr. Speaker, Ukrainian refugees who have settled in my riding of Nanaimo Ladysmith and across Canada are struggling with resettlement costs. In our communities, people like Yvette have been working tirelessly and spending money out of their own pockets to help Ukrainian families seeking safety. Ukrainians arriving in Canada who've lost everything are unable to access key supports. Why won't this government do the right thing and grant Ukrainian and other refugees permanent status so they have the supports needed?
Minister of Immigration.
Mr.
Speaker, the honourable member asks a very important question. We developed in an emergency situation a brand new model of temporary protection because we heard of the vast numbers of people who wanted to come but want to go back home when it's safe to do so. It's really important, though, that we add additional supports that are atypical for people who come as visitors to Canada, because these are people who are in need of safe haven. We have established income supports, supports for temporary accommodations. We have fully funded settlement services to ensure that people who are coming as part of this SAFE program are able to benefit from those services. We're going to continue to do what we can, not just to get people here, but to make sure they're supported after they land.
And that's all the time for this Friday's question period. All right, we go to the daily routine of business. The tabling of documents. The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Agriculture and Agri-Food.
Mr. Speaker, pursuant to Standing Order 36.8a, I have the honour to table in both official languages the government's response to 3 petitions. These returns will be tabled in an electronic format.
Thank you for that. Introduction of government bills. Statements by ministers. Rapport de délégation interparlementaire. Présentation de rapport de comité. L'honorable député de Waterloo.